Good morning, everyone. My name is Nikki Roberts, and I am the blogger at theladypreferstosave.com. I just wanted to start by introducing myself and telling you a little bit about my blog this morning. I have a very simple premise. I believe in this motto: it's real life, it's real savings, and it's really simple. I probably should start by telling you how I came into budgeting and why I feel this is a necessity, not just for my home, but everyone else's. And this needs to start by saying this is at least a decade in the making as to, take my glass off here, why I needed to start budgeting. When I was 17 years old, I suffered a very traumatic loss in my family. My uncle, the man who raised me along with my grandmother, was killed in a very horrific, very nationally broadcast hate crime. As a result of this, I changed my perspective on how to go about living. We changed our initial perspective on life. I did everything that I possibly could to bring awareness to this issue. I was interviewed by Ted Koppel for Nightline. I appeared on the town hall meeting. I have been interviewed 4 times on MTV. I have spoken for a joint session of Congress on the necessities of minority legislation. I then traveled internationally for the same rights of other people in Europe. I've done missionary work in Africa with children's charities, and ultimately ended up going to graduate school and law school to pursue civil rights legislation and public policy. With all of this in mind, I had a very traumatic life event happen a second time. When I was 24 years old, my grandmother suffered a stroke. And due to her being a diabetic and due to her not taking as good of care of herself as she should have, she was hospitalized for 3 weeks. And she ultimately did make it out of that situation, but as a result, she incurred over $80,000 in debt. This was debt that was assumed debt after all of her co-pays were made, after she took every precaution that she could. And as she had raised me, good morning, Stephanie. After she had raised me, I felt that it was my calling to step in and help take care of her. The problem was, I was in law school. I was in graduate school. I was in a dual accreditation program. I was myself at 24 over $60,000 in debt from going to school. As a result of this, I started my first year of marriage at 25, $110,000 in debt. That's where my budgeting necessity came into play. $110,000 in debt at 25. So, as a result of this, I had to implement a few strategies in order to cope with this. The first thing I did was I sat down and I actually created a plan. I created a 5-year plan on how I would no longer be in debt. This sounds very easy, but it's not. I had to take on 2 jobs. I had to finish school. On the weekends, I then sold art. My art spurned my ability to get a licensure in selling art locally. At that point, I used that money, believe it or not, to sell Scentsy. The money that I used to sell Scentsy, I was able to open up a small art gallery and have it zoned within my home. And at that point, I used every bit of the income I had to pay down my debt, and ultimately, within 6 years, was able to become debt-free by budgeting, by meal planning, by shopping with coupons, and because I started my own business. On year 7, I was able to entirely pay off my grandmother's medical debt, and before she moved on to a rest care facility after she had had a secondary stroke and was then a dementia patient before she ultimately passed on, I was able to send her to that facility completely debt-free. I was able to take both of our situations and turn them into something positive. So as a result of that, I started my blog, theladypreferstosave.com, in which I document every day how I was able to overcome my personal debt, how I was able to pay off my student loans, how I was able to become a homeowner, how I was able to start a family and be married and do all of these things while still being able to have a productive, blessed, empathetic life. And that's my solution. That's what I did, and that's why I started my blog. One thing that I'm very proud of this year is that my debt solution was acknowledged by Crystal Payne of MoneySavingMom.com, and I'm actually one of several ladies who are featured in her book coming out this fall, Money Making Mom. So I feel that I was able to do it and that other people will be able to do it. With that said, today, this was something that was pressed on me this weekend. This is something that I discussed with a friend of mine that I wanted to share with you on Periscope today. Someone asked me, what is the first thing to do when you need to get out of debt? And I have a simple solution. You make a budgetary sheet. You write down, I don't know if you can see this, you write down your month, your expenditures, your expenses, and then you write down how much you have spent, how much you need to save, and how much you plan to use for retirement. You need to be realistic. You don't need printables. You don't need anything monetary to get you started. You don't need fancy seminars. You don't need financial gurus. You don't need anyone to explain this to you other than the determination to start budgeting and make a difference in your life. It's very simple. I believe that it's the easiest thing that I ever did. It wasn't because someone encouraged me to do this. It wasn't because I decided that this is something that someone else could help me do. I know it's possible because I did it. As a single 25-year-old, I sat down and I wrote a budget, and I determined that I wanted to retire by age 50. I wanted to be a homeowner. I wanted to be a college graduate. I wanted to take care of my grandmother, and I wanted to be successful. It wasn't pressed on me that I had to do this because a man was going to encourage me or because I had a pastor instill this in me. I did it because I have been blessed every day of my life to have an education and to have initiative, and that's something I feel incredibly strongly about. I cannot emphasize enough the necessity, everyone, please get a budget. Please don't let circumstances happen to you. Let me throw out, since it's Motivational Monday, let me throw a statistic at people that you may not be aware of. Did you know that, this is very scary, 65% of women in the United States will at 2 or more points in their life be impoverished. They will not be college educated, and worse still, 70% of American children, according to Pew Research Center, will grow up in homes where they are economically unstable. This is very scary. This is scary that so many homes are impoverished. How many children are going without? And the worst statistic still, 87% of Americans, according to Pew Research, are without budgets They don't have any retirement savings, and we're still, according to January this previous year, 74% of Americans are uninsured. 74% of Americans are one health scare and 2 paychecks away from impoverishment. That to me is mind-boggling. That to me is preventable. I can say that it's preventable because I did it, and it was scary, and it was intimidating, and every day I woke up thinking that this wasn't a necessity. And Nikki, I can see what you're saying, but let me give you a bit of information. My grandmother worked for close to 30 years for U.S. Oncology. She worked as a regional director for patients' accounts. These were people, I would say the majority of people she worked with on a daily basis were people that were business owners, small business owners. They were people that were in the upper echelons of their demographics and their communities. One health crisis, one diagnosis, one malignant tumor, and their entire life savings were wiped out. Their children no longer had college funds. They had to downsize from 3 to 2 to 1 vehicles. These were hardworking, law-abiding Christians. And one health scare and they were ruined. So her advice to me was always 3 things. 1, you may not think you can afford insurance, but can your family afford to live in the event that you are no longer working? Can your family afford to be without one parent? Can your family afford to retire if you don't have some kind of policy? And I would say this, even if you don't have health insurance, get a cancer policy. Get long-term disability insurance. There are policies in this country that start as low as $19 a month. And with 1 in 8 Americans being diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, I would say this is a necessity. It's something you have to budget in every month. I mean, people can say that you can't afford it, but can your family afford to be without one of your parents? What if something happens? What will your children do? Frankly, you can't afford it. You can't afford not to. My grandmother always told me that the only 3 things you should ever go into debt for were your health, your home, and your education. And I fervently believe that. I believe that you can't afford not to. I have seen so many people ruined by one health crisis where one spouse dies and others just are bankrupt. They're left completely devoid and bankrupt. And frankly, $20 a month to ensure that your family can go on, $20 a month to ensure that you receive adequate medical care, $20 will make the difference that in the event that something does happen to you, you have a choice between death and being able to have that surgery or being able to have that CyberKnife procedure. These are very, very inexpensive policies that make a huge difference. We need to have them. We live in a country where half of the products on store shelves are filled with carcinogenic elements. We live in a country where you mention using essential oils or natural products and you're seen as a heretic. We live in a country where a woman who wants to better herself is seen as somewhat lucid, somewhat not with it. And let me tell you this, if you are a mother like myself, if you are a homeowner like myself, if you have any of these traits, you need to get yourself a policy, you need to get yourself a budget, and you need to have a plan for retirement. The best thing that you can do for your families is to be financially solvent and to be educated in the ways that you can better your family. You cannot wait for anyone else to do what you are not willing to do. That's personally how I feel. I live in a situation where I work from home. My husband does not work from home. My husband is a public educator. I have learned to budget for my family in the event that my husband was no longer with us. And we're in a different situation. My husband is an former Army sergeant. He's a veteran, and if he didn't have the insurance that he could rely on other means. I myself lived for many years without health insurance. I just couldn't afford it. This was something that was not feasible for me. And my grandmother actually told me after her first stroke, she said, "Don't let this be you. Don't let these things happen to you. Don't put yourself in a situation where this could ultimately be you." And I take that very seriously. So again, on my blog, I try to make a point every day of having an equal balance of free products, an equal balance of where I shop and what I buy, what I meal plan, and I like to be held accountable for those actions. That's why I put it out there, because that's how I live. That's how I budget. That's how I make a means for my family. I work in a legal position. I work from home. But if I didn't do that, I would have a backup means. And I fervently believe that every woman, even stay-at-home moms, have the capability of being able to generate an income. I think you have to find a way to do that. But I think we live in a world where you can't simply just be home with children. I think we have to be multitaskers. I think we have to be self-made entrepreneurs. We just have to find the means to do that. It's not just a this or that. We can't be dependent on other people. And the first step, in my personal opinion, is to please have a budget. Don't get the crazy printables. Don't pay for exceeding binders. You don't need a financial guru. You don't need a $40 book. You don't need to pay $80 to take a couponing class. You need a piece of paper and a pen and prayer and the ability to say, I can do this. I'm offended when I see people pay to learn how to budget. It offends me. It offends me to take money out of your hard-earned income to learn how to do this. It's unnecessary. It's unneeded, and it's just something I wouldn't personally do. I can testify that I learned and was self-taught how to exist in a world where I was told that I was not worthy of being financially solvent, to a place that I choose to live debt-free because it makes my life better. There is peaceability in not having debt, and that's why I started my blog. That's why I started my businesses. That's why I have my personal motto that it can be better. It can be overcome. And today, since each Monday in my house, I try to put up something that's like really motivational and kind of get everybody on a start. You know, I want everybody to be happy in my house. I want husband to be happy, children to be happy. I want the fuzzies to be happy. I want everybody to be happy. So with that said, on a slightly different topic, this week I told everyone that I wanted to focus on one of my favorite authors, Oscar Wilde, and particularly one of his quotes that I picked this up some time ago, and I don't know if everyone can see this, but it says, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken." And I fervently believe that. And this week, one of the things I am going to work on is not just being authentic, but being authentically happy. I am so blessed. I am so happy to be in the position I am. I'm so happy with my home business. We're coming up on the end of the fiscal year. I've made all of my goals for this year, and I am so ecstatic about that. I can't even tell you. Let's see, what else, since it's Monday. Oh, okay, here's one. Another way to save money. Meal planning. I actually do in my kitchen, and I post this on my blog every Monday at 6 a.m. I put up my meal plan for the week. I put up my grocery shopping from the previous week, every coupon that I use, every app that I use, and then I finish the section by showing how I take things that I have purchased and I turn them into freezer meals that will supplement other meals in the weeks ahead. So I like to think of meal planning as a 3-step process. And so each week, or in my case, I'm a little OCD, so I usually do a month at a time, but I will go back and I will amend it, and I actually have days on here. I don't know if you can see them, and they actually say wife won't. And that means wife will not be cooking today, and we will be eating leftovers, or you will be foraging. I actually put those times in my schedule because wife won't. Wife won't be doing it today. Absolutely. And on those days, please be self-sufficient. We have things. Find it. Eat it. Do it. That's how I roll. Some days I just can't. Just no. Last week, I don't know if it was the moon. I don't know what was going on. It was a wife can't, won't, non-adult. I don't know what happened. It was bad kind of week. We had 2 of those days. We lived. It was good. Let's see, what else today? Again, end of the fiscal year. Yes, Nikki, I have those often. As a matter of fact, I'm going to scope about that in the next couple weeks. I actually have a basket in the top of my bedroom closet. It's about 12 by 14 by 10, and I actually will put things in it for non-adulting days. I have socks, I have knitting, I have books that I want to read, I have articles, I have audiobooks, and I have a basket, and the people in my home know when they see that basket, I'm going through something and I need time to unwind and decompress, and I need to get myself in a situation where I can be a better wife and mother and parent and community organizer. And so I actually have a basket. I did that several years ago. When I get stressed, I get my basket. I find it's cheaper than yelling and screaming. I find that it's cheaper than yelling at people. I find that it is self-therapeutic. I have my devotionals in that basket. I have things that I don't have time for during the day. I make time. I make time for myself, because if I'm not in the right disposition, the entire atmosphere in my house changes. Have you ever walked into a house when someone's stressed and you can actually feel the palpable energy in the air? It's thick, it's dense, it's nasty, you can feel that. That's because someone needs to have a non-adulting day and get themselves in order, and they're choosing not to. That's what that is. Sometimes we have to work on us before we can work on the rest of the world. So let's see again. Oh, yes. End of the fiscal year. What does this mean? I just told my husband about this yesterday. Let's see. Can't meal plan, go to the store. Okay. Great question. All right. Now, something else I've done. Okay. And this is a big one, because my husband for a very, very long time was not on board with this, and this is something I had to do. But I like to say, kind of like in my Big Fat Greek Wedding, I am the neck, and I gently turn my husband in certain degrees, because I believe that he is the head of my household, but as his helpmate, I can find means to make his life better, and here is one of them. I do not buy groceries by the week. Let me say that again. I do not go out and look at circulars and buy groceries. It is not cost effective. You have to stockpile your food in a means that you will both be able to utilize it at its freshest consistency and at your lowest price point. What I do each week is I actually will start, let's see, I'll pull up my phone so you can see it. I will actually start Fridays, because if you, any store, by the way, any store that you're interested in shopping at, sign up for their deals online, and they will actually send you circulars for stores 2 days sooner than you'll see them in the newspaper. Request that information. When I see the ads, what I do is I will go on my phone, and I don't know if everybody can see this. I actually have a page that's called Savings, and I put all of my savings apps in them. Ibotta, Checkout 51, MobiSave, Snap, Shopium, Shrink, Berry Card, which is an organic app, Savings Star, Jingit, Receipt Hog, even the Walmart Savings Catcher. And what I do is I will actually look at the apps first. Then I will go on to my coupon sites. I go to coupons.com, I go to Red Plum, and I go to Hopster, which also has a lot of organic third-party coupons. I match an app first, then I match a coupon. If the two are something I know I will utilize within the next 6 months, I will purchase it. I then try to pair it with a weekly deal. If that is not possible, I will buy one, get one free shop with a coupon and try to place an app with it. Now, once I go shopping and purchase the goods, I stockpile them. Weekly, I plan menus around what I have in my stockpile. I do not shop week to week. You will pay 40 to 50% more for groceries if you shop week to week than if you shop from your stockpile. This is not a Nikki statistic. This is something on Dave Ramsey. This is something on Money Saving Mom. This is something that you will see of, what is it called? The shopping game, the coupon game. There's a site. You can actually go to Susie Orman. She will say the exact same thing. You have to shop from what you already have on hand. If you shop week to week, you will be paying a considerable markup price. And the reason for that is every sales cycle, which is actually not per week, stores actually only have 2 sales cycles. They will recycle the same items, and they will actually add, if you look at the first page of your circular, there will be 5 to 10 items, which they call buster deals, to get you in the store. But the unfortunate thing is this, ladies, those deals are actually not deals. Those are a 300 to 400% markup on those goods. And then you throw a deal on top of that, you are still twice your budgeted allotted amount for what you should be paying for that product. Also couple the fact that manufacturers produce goods for 1/20th of what you will pay in the store for them. Right, that's another thing. Things that aren't in the budget. Let me tell you something else that I do. I actually will go on to sites such as Ipsos. I will take surveys, and surveys will allot you Amazon gift cards. Take the Amazon gift card and do Amazon Pantry, Amazon Subscribe and Save, and if you live in the area where this is applicable, you could do Amazon Fresh to get fresh produce delivered to your house up to every 4 days, depending on your necessity. But as I was saying, do not buy week to week. You have to stack your deals. Often, if you look at apps, you'll see things like 20% off this kind of produce, or 10% off this, or 5% on this. You know, I always look for the organics first, and I work my way down. I try to get my price point. Now, for a family of 4, we are a family of 4, I am able to budget per week under $30. And this is with moderate meals. Half of our food is what I would consider an organic meal. I also implement things like meatless Mondays. Personally, it saves money, and I'll have to do another scope on that. There are tons of health benefits for not eating meat 1 day a week as opposed to all the economic reasons. But again, each week I do my meal planning, and I shop in reverse. I will stockpile, and then I create meals. I used to spend $100, $120, $140 a week in groceries, and I found that by reversing my schedule, buying things in bulk, using survey cards from Amazon to get food shipped to the house, I actually decreased my budget by 70%. I used part of that money to put on my expenses many years ago, and now I take that money and I put it into a savings account. My husband and I are in the process of saving because we want to purchase a couple tax properties as rental properties to help pad our retirement savings. So that's one of the things that we do. That doesn't seem like a lot, but $70 a week, that's a lot of money. And we tend to put that into savings. It goes automatically into savings, that money that we save. So again, I don't buy in the ordinary. I shop from my stockpile. I stockpile goods. I shop from my stockpile. I cook from my stockpile. And actually, something I'm really excited about, starting Wednesday, the 1st, I am taking up Ruth Sookup's challenge from Living Well, Spending Less. I've taken her challenge 3 other times in the last 2 years, and I really enjoy it. I'm really going to look forward to emptying out my deep freeze and using all of those goods in order to not only save money, but use that money and to put back into my savings. And the last time that I did Ruth's Savings Challenge, I saved 1 month $817, and the second time I did the challenge, I saved $1,034 and change that month by cutting back, not having little expenditures, shopping from what I had on home. Even if some of the meals weren't necessarily the best, we were able to utilize what we had. And as you know, spoiled food is wasted food, and every time you throw food in the trash, you gotta think about, you're wasting about $5 to $10. That adds up too. I look at things in a more concrete sense that way. And keep in mind, these are the same tips that I give. I teach couponing savings classes with my local United Way for women who are transitioning from domestic abuse situations into more permanent home-based situations for their children. So these are the same things I would tell them. Honestly, for my home, these things work. They may not necessarily work for everybody else, but again, this is something that I know works. We have a budget. We do a meal plan every week. And something else, totally off topic, but since it's Meal Plan Monday, my family loves to see the meals posted. They look forward to it. Even on days where they know it's something that I'm not going to be personally doing, the wife won't days, they look forward to it. This is something that they talk about. They even request meals in which I can put on a rotating schedule as to who gets what. They're happier. They like to know what we're going to have. It builds stability. And I work meals around themes. We have a schedule each week, and part of that schedule I carve out times past dinner for family movie nights, a family game night, and we actually have 1 day a week where I sit down an hour and I actually turn the timer on, and all of us sit in our living room and we discuss what we are doing for the week, how we are blessed, what our complaints are, and how we can do things differently to make our week run better. That's something that I have found that keeps everyone in my home accountable, not just for their actions, but their emotions, for their sensibilities towards other people, and how we behave when we're outside this home. That's something else to keep in mind. When you have peaceability in your life, things like budgeting will go hand in hand. When you are at peace with yourself, you can find plausible solutions. I grew up in a home where nothing was out of reach. If I came home and I made a request, it was never, you can't have this, or we can't afford this, or you don't deserve to have this. We sat down and we discussed how I could come up with a way to earn that product, whether I did chores or I helped my mother with her work, or she also managed properties in her spare time. So it was always, can I earn it? What can I do? And I grew up with a yes you can, yes you will attitude. And I think that makes a great deal of difference. When you think you can't, when you think you can't afford it, when you think it is beyond your means, you're defeated. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that goes double for your budget. You have to look at the world from a perspective that not only can you achieve, but you will achieve. And in my home, we encourage others to do that. We encourage everyone to have the mindset of not poverty, but impoverishment is beyond us. We say that. It's beyond us. We don't have to live in that world. We don't have to live thinking that we're less than. And as a matter of fact, something else that we did this year for the first time, there was a day my husband was off midweek for President's Day this year, and as a family, we went through our coupon stockpile and we took out anything that we would not use within 1 year, and we took it to our local domestic abuse center. After they tallied it, it was over $4,000 worth of products that we had that we were not going to be able to use. And when I calculated that I paid only tax only for these products at the store, I was able to, because of budgeting, bless my community with over $4,000 worth of products that cost me under $100 in tax. And of that, by the way, I received a tax slip that I can use as a donation for my taxes for the next 2 years. So I was able to use the budgeting and the meal planning and the other means to bless people in my community. So I am an advocate for budgeting. I am an advocate for self-education. I am an advocate for women who work at home or stay at home to be self-empowered and to have the means to overcome any of their budgetary or personal dilemmas that they have. I did it at 25. I took 5 years and I paid off $110,000 in debt. So I know that it's possible. I know that anyone can do it because I did it. I did it and it was hard, but I am so much the better for having done so. And each day I want to share on Periscope some of the things that I know how to do to make your family situation better. It doesn't cost money. It just takes time and patience and diligence and the opportunity to allow yourself to live a better life. So again, as it is Motivational Monday, I want to share again what my quote for the week is that I'm posting for my family. And it's from Oscar Wilde, who said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken." So that's what I'm carrying with me this week. I want to be myself. I want to be my best self. I want to be my most budgeted self. I want to be an encouragement to others. I want to live the aspirations that I have in my community. And I want to go into this season, the end of this fiscal year, full of hopes and thoughts and to be thoughtful towards other people. So thank you all again for being with me. This was very nerve-wracking in starting, but I am so blessed to have people that showed up, and I appreciate everyone, especially many of the ladies from Topic Mamas, including Tammy Decker, who is, flaws and all, one of the greatest women I've ever met of my acquaintance, and I have thoroughly enjoyed her humor, and she makes squirrel days the best days. So if anyone has not checked her out, please do check out both Topic Mamas and Tammy Decker. She is an amazing person, and she is someone that you need to catch every morning. So again, please check out my blog. It is The Lady Prefers to Save with the number 2.com. I am The Lady Prefers to Save all across all social media, and I thank you all for being here.